I'm going to preview the 5 seed Baylor versus the 12 seed Vanderbilt women's basketball game, which will be played in Blacksburg, Virginia, in a Cassell Coliseum. Cassell. If I mispronounced that arena, I apologize. And the game will be played March 22nd at 5 p.m. Central Time on ESPNU. And Virginia Tech is the host site because they were a 4 seed. So, and I would have done this game sooner. However, there was a playing game for Vanderbilt, and they survived against Columbia last night. After that first quarter, it was tied at 13 apiece. Vanderbilt got a double-digit lead at half, and they had to survive. I mean, Columbia at times was pushing to make it potentially a tied game again, and there was still like 1 or 2 possessions. And even in the fourth quarter, it got a little bit hairy. But ultimately, Vanderbilt won the game 72-68, and y'all can check out the play-by-play on that. And Vanderbilt on the year is 23-9 overall and 9-7 in the SEC. And they were not expected to do as much as they should have done up to this point, so they overachieved already when you look at the preseason poll for the SEC. And their head coach was a long-time UConn assistant. I'm just gonna say that right now. And she even played at UConn even. And the name of the coach is Shay Ralph. And she was part of those good UConn team, like great UConn teams from 2008 to 2021. Obviously. And she played at UConn from 1996 to 2001, and we know how good UConn was back then. And before that, she was an assistant at Pitt from 2003 to 2008. Then was at UConn forever before taking head coaching position at Vanderbilt. So I'm just gonna make that note right now about them on their head coach as well. And they do have a player that we are familiar with in terms of the name. And you'll know why in a second. And I know there's more to their roster and their players on stats than I'm listing here. But that's the ones that played last night for 1. 2, they're the most commonly used players. That's all I gotta say. Ayanna Moore, number 23, 5'8" guard as a junior, 14.2 points per game. 55 for 164 on threes, 103 for 123 on free throws, 3.4 rebounds per game, 2.7 assists per game, 2.4 turns per game, 1.3 steals per game, 2.4 fouls per game. And I will put the outlook on Vanderbilt women's basketball in the description below so y'all could see it. And Shasha Washington, number 35, 6'2" 4. That's a junior, 12.2 points per game. She had a big game last night in terms of points and rebounds. A double-double. You got to look at the stats. 72 for 115 on free throws, 8.1 rebounds per game, 2.8 turns per game, 1.5 steals per game, 1.4 blocks per game, 2.7 fouls per game. And this Jordan Cambridge, not Combridge, Cambridge, number 3, 5'9" guard, that's a senior, 11.9 points per game, 43 for 158 on threes. I know that's not that great a possession, but she could still shoot the ball and score. 78 for 107 on free throws, 5.9 rebounds per game, 4.4 assists per game, 2.7 turnovers per game, 3.5 steals per game, 2.7 fouls per game. And there's Camille Pierre, number 12, 6'2" forward, that's a junior. 8.8 points per game, 2 for 9 on threes, but she's not attempted threes in a long time. 65 for 96 on free throws, 5.3 rebounds per game, 1.5 turns per game, 1 steal per game, 2.6 fouls per game. There's Justine Pissett, number 13, 6'4" guard. That's a sophomore. Yeah, that's a big guard right there. Got to keep note of. And I know she's only averaging 6.9 points per game, but still. 52 for 137 on threes, 12 for 16 on free throws, 2.2 rebounds per game, 1.2 turnovers per game, 1.6 fouls per game. And there's Jordan Oliver, And we're familiar with her because she was at Baylor for 2 years. Then she left for Duke. She got hurt right away. She was out for the year, then played at Duke, and now she's at Vanderbilt. Number 11, 5 to 10 inch guard. That's a senior. 5.2 points per game. 1 for 2 on threes. So she's not a 3-point shooter. And when she comes in the game, she's more like that power forward role, kind of like similar to Asia Blackwell. I know Asia's technically playing the 5 now, or defending the 5, but you get the point, guys. I mean, 15 for 23 on free throws, 4.9 rebounds per game, 2.9 assists per game, 1.4 turnovers per game, 1 steal per game, 1.4 fouls per game. There's Aga Makarat, Makurat. I apologize if I butchered that name. And I know she had a sister that was at UConn, and there was another sister as well that played college ball too. So, number 24, 6 foot 2 inch guard. That's a freshman, 4 points per game. 29 for 88 on threes, 11 for 14 on free throws, 1 turnover per game, 1.9 fouls per game. And as the last player I'm going to mention is Ryan Allen, number 5, 6 foot 1 inch guard. That's a sophomore, 2.3 points per game. 15 for 40 on threes, 12 for 15 on free throws, and 0.6 fouls per game. I want to say this across the board. You got to limit your foul trouble as well as get them in foul trouble. Especially during Cambridge, because last night when she fouled out, Vanderbilt kind of lost their cool a bit, and they actually tried, like after the press that Columbia tried to do, and they broke it, and it was a 2-on-1 situation. Instead of pulling the ball out, they went to the basket and turnover, offensive foul. I mean, I'm just telling the truth. And of course, another thing as well, you got to out-hustle Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's a scrappy team. I mean, that's just saying a little bit about that, and all this. You got to come out with energy from the start, and they are good. I mean, now that Vanderbilt is familiar with the arena and everything, so I'm just telling you up front, and you got to adjust to the officiating because I know it can be questionable at times, but you just got to play through it. And you got to be more physical, try to be ball tough in this game as well. And now on defense, it's simple. You got to contain their shooters, contain the slashers, and I will say last night that Vanderbilt killed Columbia on the board. I mean, not in terms of like total rebounds, but it seemed like every offensive rebound, or nearly every single one that they had, they got a made shot out of it nearly every time. So you got to rebound the ball. That's number one. I mean, you got to box out, and you don't want them to live at the free throw line either. And I get they only made 2/3 of their free throws last night on 21 attempts, so they almost gave Columbia a shot at the very end. But they made the last 2 free throws when they needed to, and that was practically game right there. And you got to get them uncomfortable and make them turn the ball over. They had 13 turnovers last night despite the win. But there's other factors in the game. That's why Vanderbilt won the game. But you get the point. And all this. Get some steals. Of course, drawing some charges would really help. Blocks as well. Yeah, if you can. But you get the whole point. You got to play solid team defense and make them uncomfortable and make their shot selection hard. And nothing easy at the rim. Because you don't want... The last thing you want to do is give them a chance at the rim so much. And I get part of the reason why Baylor's lost some games this year. Rebounding difference and points in the paint difference. That's 2 reasons. It's no secret. So that's obvious right there. You try to get them below 40% shooting, because last night they had 40.6% from the field. I mean, on 64 attempts. So they took 11 more shots than Columbia did when you look at the numbers. Now on defense, you got to take care of the ball. They will play man-to-man defense. Though I'm not sure they're going to play zone period. But I know they play man-to-man, and they did trap at times against Columbia, and it gave them fits. And it did. I mean, 18 turnovers. But they did out rebound Vanderbilt 38-32, but only 12 of those offensive. And you got to convert your second chance points, and that's another thing on defense. You got to limit the second chance points in the paint, and points in transition as well. So you got to get some points on turnovers, because sometimes your best offense comes from your defense. You got to get some transition points on offense. You got to get some second chance points. You got to get some points in the paint. And I know we want to shoot better than we did last game against Iowa State. I mean, especially that fourth quarter. That kind of really hurt us. And Vanderbilt is a good defensive team when you look at it. I mean, they had 7 steals last night. So, I'm just saying that is the truth. And even though Columbia had 18 turnovers, they shot 43.4% from the field on 53 attempts. You got to have good shot selection. You're trying to make your threes count, unlike Columbia did. They only made 5 threes out of 21. And they did miss 6 free throws out of 23, which is like 73.9% on makes, by the way. So when you get to the free throw line, you've got to make them count. I mean, and you try to have more, like, really good number of assists if possible, and you limit the Vanderbilt stealing the ball and getting blocks. And I would not want to have live ball turnovers in this game, because that's what Vanderbilt thrives off. They thrived off of. So, last part in the way, I mean, it's the truth. Because points out turnovers, they scored 12, but from 18 turnovers. But you get the whole point. You gotta have more points on turnovers than Vanderbilt, more fast break points, and points in the paint. Yeah, and in a way, Columbia is kind of similar to us in terms of size, but I will say we do have better athletes than Columbia does, and better players. No offense to Columbia, because they're a good team. It's just they're Ivy League, we're Power 5, and we have more depth. And I just know one thing for a fact: Columbia's best player really struggled last night from the field and 3-point line, and I know it. And obviously, we gotta limit the Moore's damage on offense. And from Vanderbilt, she led the team last night with 22 points. And Washington had a double-double, like I said, 16 points, 15 rebounds for Vanderbilt. Pierre was even in double figures at the very end of it with 11 points. And Pissett with 10. So, but Cambridge had 8 points. So their starting 5 is good, as you could tell. They only had 5 bench points last night. And that's from Jordan Aller. And she played like 24 minutes. So the other 2 players that I mentioned, they played 6 minutes or less last night. So obviously we want to get them in foul trouble. We want to get them in foul trouble because their quality depth will be shrunk a little bit and all this. And it would be helpful if Sarah Andrews played good in this game, and Jana Van Geinbeek, which she has stated that she's coming back for another year, but that's a different story on that. But you get the whole point. Hopefully she has a better game than the last game or 2. I'm just telling you the truth in terms of shooting, and hopefully Yaya Felder does better too. And Dre Edwards definitely needs to step up. She had 17 points against Iowa State. That's not the reason why she lost. And Madison Barley needs to do her role, whether it's like defense, rebounding, with the size, try to help with the size a little bit. Asia Blackwell, hopefully she has a better game. Because she had foul trouble and then she got hurt, but hopefully she's okay. I mean, that's the truth. And all this, and hopefully Sarah Andrews has a better game shooting. And some of those shots were good looks, by the way. And hopefully Jade Walker needs to step up. Bella Fonovoy, Darren Little, Paige Buggs. So I'm just listing players at this point. And I know Jane Van Geinbeek, the last game she was 0 for. But I know prior to that game, or the Big 12 tournament, she was on fire. So she needs to continue to play with confidence. And obviously, you want to try to correct what you did wrong against Iowa State and go into this game with you did well against Iowa State. You want to do well in this game. And we got to play ticked off. You're coming off of a loss, and you're ready to get that taste out of your mouth. I mean, that's the thing. Because whenever you had a lead with around 3 minutes left, you let the Iowa State come back in it, and you got to protect leads. You got to protect the leads down the stretch. So I'm just, like that last game against Iowa State was just really off, and you got to limit your turnovers a lot better than you have. I mean, that's the truth. You got to limit your turnovers. Like I said, Vanderbilt will score points off turnovers. They will. So, anyways, if you like this content, hit the like and subscribe button. I'll see you guys later. On the road to 600 subscribers, of course, ultimate goal. It's 1,000 more, so make money out this course. Like a video, comment video really helps YouTube algorithm so more people can see. Sharing the video does help as well, so more people can watch. And if you're watching and not subscribed, hit subscribe button. It's free, the notification bell as well.